Mallory, how can I avoid offending any Indigenous people? I want to learn about Indigenous culture in a respectful way so that I'm not being insensitive to Native people. These are some of the most common questions that we get asked from our non-Indigenous allies. This video is about how you can avoid being culturally insensitive toward the Indigenous community. This will ensure positive relationships with the Indigenous people in your life and to be a better Indigenous ally. Hi there, I'm Mallory. Welcome back to the Tribal Trade channel where we share new videos every single week about smudging Indigenous culture and Native teachings. Be sure to subscribe and hit the bell so that you never miss a video. Do you have Indigenous friends, coworkers, and family members? If you live anywhere in Canada or the United States, you likely have Indigenous people in your life even if it's not immediately obvious. In order to have positive relationships with the Indigenous people in your life, it's really important to have awareness of Indigenous culture and a good understanding of how to be culturally sensitive. Cultural awareness is very important for any background. If you care about being kind or a friendly ally to all people and just a good human in general, then this applies to you. I'm pretty sure if you're watching this video, you're someone who cares about cultural awareness. This type of awareness encompasses the knowledge, awareness, and acceptance of other cultures and other cultural identities. It's about understanding the differences between yourself and other cultures and embracing those differences as an opportunity to learn and grow. But while being aware is a great place to start and a good foundation for learning, there are also plenty of ways to be insensitive while you're still trying to learn. Even if these mistakes might be innocent in nature, they could still come across as invalidating, undermining, or downright crass. This video, I'll be talking about the 3 red flags that you want to know in order to avoid being culturally insensitive. There's so much to know about how to be culturally sensitive and how to avoid offending Indigenous people, and there are likely hundreds of ways to navigate this. But today, I'm just going to go over 3 big ones. Of course, there is no way that you can completely guarantee that you will avoid offending anyone. There will always be those people who are offended no matter what you do or what you say, but I'm here to help you navigate cultural awareness without fumbling or accidentally hurting people by feeding into harmful stereotypes. Part of being culturally aware is being filled to the brim with questions. And being curious is a great thing, but it becomes a problem when these questions can harm the people who you're trying to learn from. So let's get into the 3 red flags to watch out for if you're wanting to avoid being culturally insensitive to Indigenous people in your life. So the first red flag to watch out for to avoid being culturally insensitive is asking Indigenous people, why don't you speak your Indigenous language? Although this may seem like an innocent question to allies and non-Indigenous people, for Indigenous folks, this can be incredibly triggering. The reason why it's so triggering for many Indigenous people is because for decades it was actually illegal for us to speak our native language. It was also illegal for us to practice any and all cultural traditions. Because of this, over the years, many Indigenous languages in Canada have sadly been lost in time. Some Indigenous people were even raised to fear their own language because of the implications and punishments that came with speaking it out loud. So asking an Indigenous person why they don't speak their native language is a complicating question without a simple, straightforward answer. It's best to avoid this question entirely as an ally and learn about it thoroughly yourself first. The second red flag to watch out for to avoid being culturally insensitive is asking Indigenous people about getting tax off. This is yet another question that can come across as very insensitive. Saying that the First Nations people receive tax exemption is a huge red flag when it comes to cultural insensitivity. Why, you might ask? Well, the Government of Canada mandated Indian status cards as a means of tracking Indigenous people and controlling our human rights as to whether we had an issued card or not. It's not as cut and dry as getting tax exemptions. This question is loaded with human rights violations and being treated as less than for generations. If you ask this question as an ally, you could come across sounding insensitive at best and cruel at worst. Caring simply about tax exemptions when the Indigenous people have gone through centuries of oppression exemplifies a lack of cultural awareness. Looking back, are there instances that you can remember where maybe you were a little cultural insensitive? Have you learned and grown since then? Have you experienced any of these red flags yourself or from a friend? Please let us know in the comments below. I would love to know what you guys think about these red flags. Do they make sense to you? Are they new to you? Or did you already know about them? Please share in the comments. The third red flag to watch out for to avoid being culturally insensitive is unfortunately often said to Indigenous people, which isn't actually a question, it's more of a statement. So while some people don't mean harm by saying this, there are others that do. What you should never say to an Indigenous person is that they look non-Indigenous. They don't look Indigenous, they look white, whatever. Telling an Indigenous person that they don't look Indigenous is a huge red flag. Unfortunately, all too often I see this happen even within Indigenous communities. Indigenous people frequently tell their own Native brothers and sisters that they don't look like real Native people, or that they don't look Native enough. Why you should never say this should be obvious, but just in case it isn't, you cannot measure someone's degree of Indigenous identity by the color of their skin, their eyes, their hair, or the way they look in general. Doing so is feeding into a racist and anti-Indigenous thought process, which is exactly what we're trying to get away from. I encourage you to be kind to yourself, to each other, and not judge by what you see. Lead with love, respect, and the other 7 grandfather teachings. We have a full workshop coming up specifically for how to become a better Indigenous ally. You can find the link for that in the description below. If you want to learn more about the Indigenous experience, our website is a great place to start. We have plenty of Indigenous resources for education and awareness. Be sure to check them out. All these links will be down in the description below. If you're wanting to become more aware of Indigenous culture, the steps towards becoming a more enlightened and more accepting of all walks of life, watching this video and sharing the information that you learn from it, you are becoming a better ally. Leave us a comment on the few ways that you think that you can become a better ally and encourage those around you to do the same. Thank you so much for watching and have a wonderful day. We'll see you next time.